In our class 142, I will teach you the pretérito anterior del indicativo. This conjugation tense in Spanish is one of the several conjugations of the past. Pretérito anterior can be conjugated as I was or I have been, right? However, in Spanish, I'll show you when it is used or when it was used, because pretérito anterior, although it still exists in Spanish, it has actually been replaced in everyday conversation for pretérito indefinido or simple past, or for pretérito pluscuamperfecto that we have already seen in a previous lesson. So, when do we actually still use the pretérito anterior? Actually, in old ancient literature or poetry, or sometimes in legal books, okay? So, it still exists, but it is very rarely used. So let's begin. Before we get into the topic, here you can see all the different conjugations of the modo indicativo. Some of these we have already learned, and some others we will learn in our next lessons. Plus these 6 tenses of the modo subjuntivo, okay? In total, I counted 22 verbal tenses that I will be teaching you at the end of these, once we finish all these 22 PowerPoint video lessons. So let's begin with our first group of Spanish verbs, that is the verbs that end with the letters AR, okay? We know that the Spanish verbs are classified into 3 big groups: the ones that end in ar, the ones that end in er, and the ones that end in ir. And each of those 3 groups has its different rules of conjugation. So when we learn how to conjugate verbs into a specific verbal tense, we have to learn how to conjugate this tense into each of these 3 groups. So let's begin with the first group, that is the biggest of the 3, and it's also the one that has less irregular verbs. We will choose the verb hablar, or to speak, as an example to conjugate. Here's an example, a typical example using the pretérito anterior, so you can see when it is used, okay? Yo hube hablado. This means I spoke or I had spoken, right? But the pretérito anterior is used for indicating something that happened immediately before something else, okay? So the pretérito anterior is used for indicating something that happened immediately before something else. So to understand this better, you can see the example I will show you right now. Apenas hube hablado con él, se enfureció y se fue. Apenas hube hablado con él, se enfureció y se fue. Okay, this sentence can be divided in 2 parts, or 2 phases, or 2 different moments, right, in the past. One moment is, first let's translate it into English. This means, as soon as I spoke with him, he got mad and left, right? We can divide this into 2 moments in the past. As soon as I spoke with him, and the other moment is he got mad and left. And we see that although both are things that happened in the past, one happened immediately before the other one, right? But immediately before, not much before. So which one happened before? I spoke with him, right? But the words as soon as mean that this happened immediately before, right? So almost at the same time. what happened later is he got mad and left. So this past that happened immediately before is what we conjugate in pretérito anterior. Look at the words in Spanish. Apenas hube hablado con él. Hube hablado is the conjugation of the verb hablar in pretérito anterior. As you can see, we are using the auxiliary verb haber, right? That's why hube hablado, we have two verbs. Hube, which is the auxiliary verb that goes conjugated, and later hablado, that comes from the verb hablar, or to speak. So you will also see this if in everyday conversation we try to express this same idea, we'll probably use simple past or the pretérito pluscuamperfecto, right? However, this would be the pure or original way of saying this in Spanish, right? But that has with time been replaced by these other verbs. So let's see, here you can see we're using the verb haber as auxiliary verb, and here we will see how to conjugate verb hablar into each of the subject pronouns, okay? Remember that usted conjugates the same as él or ella, but usted means you, the formal way of addressing you or tú. And vosotros and ustedes are synonyms, but they conjugate differently, right? Vosotros is a subject pronoun that is used in Spain, and ustedes is the one that is used in Latin America. So let's begin. Yo hube hablado. Tú hubiste hablado. Él hubo hablado, or ella or usted hubo hablado. Nosotros hubimos hablado. Vosotros hubisteis hablado. Ustedes hubieron hablado. Ellos hubieron hablado. If we want to conjugate another regular verb of the first group, we replace the root of that verb with the root of this verb hablar, right? That is what is in blue. And what remains is the auxiliary verb, of course, and the ending, right? The ending for this tense. That is what is marked in red. Now let's pass to the second group of verbs, the verbs that end with er. And we choose as an example the verb comer, or to eat. Here's our example. Yo hube comido. I ate or I had eaten, right? It's used for indicating something that happened immediately before something else. Apenas hube comido eso, me empecé a sentir mal. Apenas hube comido eso, me empecé a sentir mal. This means, as soon as I had eaten that, I began feeling sick. Right? So here we can see we have two different moments that happened in the past, and one is immediately before the other. Right? There we use the pretérito anterior. Hube comido is pretérito anterior. We are using the auxiliary verb haber. That means to have or to be. Of course, same as in English, the auxiliary verb is the one that goes conjugated, okay? You can see that here. Yo hube comido. Tú hubiste comido. Él or ella or usted hubo comido. Nosotros hubimos comido. Vosotros hubisteis comido. Ustedes hubieron comido. Ellos hubieron comido. Okay? Here you can see how the only one that is